What's going on, 49er faithful? You are tuned in to the Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025 edition of Keeping the Faith. I'm JD, and today was the first day of 49ers training camp down there in Santa Clara. The team was on the field, football was actually happening, things were actually being done on a football field as the San Francisco 49ers continue their preparations for the upcoming 2025 NFL season. And I couldn't be happier. It was amazing to see all of the tweets and posts on social media from the media that were in attendance to the fans that were there. I'm so happy that football's back, and I'm so happy that I get to talk about it with you guys. I'm excited. I'm hyped up. Look, the Niners were out there today for about maybe nearly an hour and a half. I think it was might have been 75 minutes that the practice ran today. But I have a ton of notes, a ton of things that I jotted down that I am taking away from practice today based on the reports of people in attendance and things that I came across. I was not there today. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend that I was. Even though the green screen might make it look like I'm down there, I'm obviously not actually down there today. But I will be getting down there soon, and I'll have some news on that shortly or sometime in the coming days. But I have a ton of notes that I've taken from practice today, and I want to go through them with you guys. A lot of things stood out to me today down there at 49ers camp, and there was a lot of important things that took place, important business that took place down there in Santa Clara out on that practice field. A lot that we can take away from it. Even though it was a non-padded practice, it was the first team practice of training camp. You typically can't take away too much from an early camp practice with no pads and things like that. But there was actually quite a bit of useful information that we can take from what happened down there today. And we're going to go through that together. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that I say what's up to everybody that is participating in our live chat today. So if that's you, make sure you drop your ones in the chat. Let me see who's here. Let me say what's up to all of you guys that are in attendance today. What I like to call the show within the show being our live chat. I really strive to make this show one of the more inclusive shows, one of the more fan-friendly shows on YouTube when it comes to fan interaction and, getting you guys involved because, I might be the guy with the microphone, but at the end of the day, it's your guys' show. If no one was watching, if you weren't watching, I wouldn't be doing it, So I always like to show love to the supporters of this channel and people that are around when we go live. So let me see who we got in the building, and we will go on from there. I see my guy, David Corona, dropping his ones as always. Shout out my guy, David. Thank you for tuning in. We got Wi-Fi in the chat. We got Tommy Huxley in the chat checking on in. Let's see who else we got. Salvador checking in with the Bang Bang Niner gang. I like the energy. I like the all caps energy today on the first day of training camp. I see Papa J, as always, checking on in, dropping his ones. Awesome. I don't think I missed anyone. All right. So let's not waste any time, shall we? Let's get into training camp because they had their first practice today that was both open to the media and the fans. And there, like I said, there was a lot that you could take away from the San Francisco 49ers getting out there on the practice field today. Speaking of practice fields, they do have a new configuration out there in training camp. If you look behind me, this is an older picture when the training camps ran this way, horizontally, left to right, based on where the fans were sitting. But now they have two full practice fields that are both running vertically away from the stands where the fans sit. One of those fields is 100 yards. The other field is about 165 yards long. And from what I gathered today, a lot of people had trouble kind of seeing what was going on. A lot of the practicing, a lot of what was happening on the field happened really far away from the fans. So if you're intending on going down to 49ers training camp, I fully suggest that you invest in some binoculars, because from what I hear, you will need them. So I wanted to make sure I put out that PSA as we got going here today as well. I see my guy Fazil checking in. I wanted to say what's up to Fazil real quick before we get going. I always got to show love to the regulars that stop on through. But I think I would be amiss if I did not start with my takeaways from the first day of 49ers training camp practice, if I did not bring up the attendance of one wide receiver, Jauan Jennings. Jauan Jennings was out there on the practice field today. He did not hold in. He did not hold out. He was out there on the practice field today, participating with his teammates. Not only was he participating, he also was seen embracing, dapping up Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch prior to practice. And, he looked all smiles. The typical Jauan Jennings energy was on full display. He caught 3 passes during team drill. So, business as usual for Jauan Jennings out there today. If you wouldn't have heard anything about a contract stalemate, if you wouldn't have heard anything about a potential trade demand, you would think that nothing had changed. Jauan Jennings appeared to be the Jauan Jennings that Niner fans all know and love. Happy-go-lucky guy out there bringing the energy, dancing to the music, and it was awesome to see that Jauan Jennings was out there practicing with his teammates today instead of holding out, not showing up to camp at all, or holding in and standing on the sideline, being a distraction, much like Brandon Ayuk was last year. So shout out to Jauan Jennings for showing up. And I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but I don't think Jauan Jennings would have stepped on that practice field if he didn't have a good idea that something was going to get done between he and the San Francisco 49ers. He had a big smile on his face in every video, every picture that I saw. So maybe Jauan knows something that we don't. Maybe there's a contract coming down the pipeline here shortly. But I wanted to definitely take a minute to shout out Jauan Jennings for showing up, being a pro, and practicing with his team on the very first day of 49ers training camp. That's a very encouraging sign. I'm sure Niner fans that were down there showed Jauan a ton of love. Good on you, Jauan Jennings. Very, very good. That's going to go a long way in kind of picking up the vibes of training camp, and also making sure that fans still support him, because after Deebo Samuel had his holdout and trade demand, things were never quite the same between Deebo and the fan base, Deebo and the team. Same thing with Brandon Ayuk. After his fiasco of an offseason last year, things have not been the same. So it's good on Jauan Jennings to kind of go out there and kind of calm the nerves of the 49ers faithful that were in attendance and those that are paying attention to training camp. So good job, Jauan. Way to show up, way to be a pro. Wanted to definitely mention that. Aside from that, I mean, I have a ton of things jotted down here, so bear with me, guys. We will get through them. The number 2 thing on my list, Ricky Pearsall. And we went through all the things that I would be looking forward to seeing down at 49ers training camp. We've been talking all about it leading up to today. What are the main storylines? What are the things that I'd be looking for? Yada, yada, yada. And obviously, also high on that list is the status of Ricky Pearsall, having been placed on the PUP list, entering training camp, having sustained yet another hamstring injury. The vibes around Ricky Pearsall were not as good as they could have been entering training camp. However, looks like Ricky Pearsall worked out on a side field today rather intensely. Was engaged in some full sprints. According to everyone who had eyes on Ricky Pearsall down there in Santa Clara today, he looked like he could have practiced. He looked fully healthy. He looked ready to go. And it appears that Kyle Shanahan was right when he said that the team, was going to be exercising some caution, or an abundance of caution, I believe John Lynch may have said, as they hold him out for the first 3 practices, and they will reevaluate things this weekend. Also today, during Kyle Shanahan's post-practice press conference, he did say that he would be surprised if Ricky Pearsall was not out there on Sunday. So good news there. It looks like we may have dodged a bullet as it pertains to Ricky Pearsall and his hamstring. I think they're just being overly cautious with Ricky, and it sounds like he's going to be out there on Sunday for the final non-padded practice before the team puts on the pads on Monday, July 28th. So for those of you who are waiting to go to training camp when pads come on, this coming Monday, July 28th, will be your first shot at doing that. Just like I had mentioned to you guys leading into training camp, I kind of circled that day, Monday, July 28th, as being the first time I believe the Niners will be putting on the pads, and it turns out I was right. So it looks like Ricky Pearsall is going to be good to go in very short order, and it's not gonna come. It couldn't come soon enough, is what I'm trying to say. Because my third takeaway from training camp is that wide receiver Jacob Cowing sustained a hamstring injury of his own out there in Santa Clara today during warmups, and he's expected to miss some time. And that is an absolutely monumental blow to Jacob Cowing and the training camp that he was expected to have. I mean, he was going to be competing with Jordan Watkins for some meaningful snaps early on in this season, and now he's going to be rehabbing a strained hamstring, a pulled hamstring, and that's a brutal blow for a guy who really needs to come out and make his mark in his second year in the league. And he was going to be in a big time camp battle with Jordan Watkins. And like I told you guys leading up, like that was probably my number one camp battle that I wanted to see play out throughout the course of camp over the next several weeks. Jordan Watkins versus Jacob Cowing. And now we're going to be robbed of that. We don't know the severity of the injury. Even Kyle Shanahan said he wasn't quite sure exactly how long Jacob Cowing was going to be out for, but he is expected to definitely miss some time. I would expect them to definitely do the same thing they did with Ricky Pearsall and exercise a ton of caution. However, the frustrating part is this team was already low on wide receivers, and they brought in Equanimous St. Brown earlier this week because they needed another camp body. And with the injury to Jacob Cowing, don't be shocked if they bring in another wide receiver, another camp body at that position, because it sounds like they're going to need it. Not the ideal way you want to start training camp at the wide receiver position with all these injuries and uncertainty, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, we hope that Jacob Cowing recovers quickly and can get out there and really, compete somewhat during training camp with Jordan Watkins and really put some good practice tape out there as they enter the season. But big blow to hear Jacob Cowing hurt that hamstring today. Another area of note, and we talked about this leading up to training camp. Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions today during training camp. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it because, like I told you, leading into training camp, that stuff doesn't matter to me. And really, in the large scheme of things, the long range scheme of things, it doesn't matter. We know that Brock Purdy is going to be playing his best when the lights are brightest, when the games actually are happening. We know he's not typically been the strongest practice player, if I'm being honest with you. But he threw 2 interceptions during team drills today, one to Jason Pinnock and one to D. Winters. We'll get to those in a minute. But, Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions today, so people are freaking out. Let me tell you, it's nothing to freak out about. It's not. Now, is it worth mentioning? Is it worth being something that you take away from camp today? Absolutely. I'm not saying sweep it under the rug and act like it didn't happen. I'm not saying bury your head in the sand. I'm not saying, anything like that. But does it really matter at the end of the day? It doesn't. It doesn't. But I had to mention it, that Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions today. One was to safety Jason Pinnock, and one was to linebacker D. Winters. And that's my next note that I have jotted down here. the fact that those guys are already making plays to begin 49ers training camp. Those two guys are obviously circled by myself and several others who are talking about this team. And I'm sure a lot of Niner fans themselves have their eyes on those two guys because both of them figure to, play some key roles for this team, especially early on in the year. And it's very encouraging that linebacker D. Winters made a play here on the first day of training camp. Not to mention safety Jason Pinnock was able to make that play, make an interception off of Brock Purdy today. And that's huge. That's huge going into your first practice. And those are two guys who definitely want to have a strong camp because both of them are in line to potentially start on defense for this team. So way to go, D. Winters and Jason Pinnock, making a pair of interceptions between them. And we'll definitely keep our eyes on them as we move forward. And I'll mention these guys again here as we get down my list. But I did want to mention two of the more popular names on defense in terms of, who people are paying attention to, made some big plays in their first practice with the 49ers today. So big news there. Number 6 on my list, and I'll go through the list here, and then we can open it up to your guys' questions and comments in the chat, and we'll interact there. But I just want to go through my list because I have quite a few things here. Number 6 on my list, Christian McCaffrey looked spry and healthy out there in practice today. From all the highlights that I saw, the Athletics' David Lombardi. Did I say the Athletic? I meant the San Francisco Standard's David Lombardi. Even went as far as to say it looked like Christian McCaffrey gained a step. We all remember the offseason drama when certain observers noted that Christian McCaffrey appeared to have lost a step during the offseason program. But today he looked very much like himself, and that was much to the delight of the 49er fans in attendance and the media who are reporting on this stuff. Christian McCaffrey looked good. He looked healthy. He looked spry, and that is obviously an encouraging sign. Now, he did not participate in team drills. He only did individual work, but nonetheless, very encouraging that Christian McCaffrey comes into training camp fresh off becoming a brand new father, and he looked good. He looked healthy. He looked ready to go, and it's obviously very encouraging. Is it the end-all, be-all? No. I mean, we still have to pay attention to Christian, see how many consecutive days he practices before he gets any kind of veteran rest day. Obviously, eyes are going to be on him every time he touches the ball to see how he responds. And at the very least, though, like it's very encouraging to know that McCaffrey, at least on the surface, at least initially, appears to be as healthy as he can be for the start of 49ers camp. So definitely wanted to hit on that. Number 7 on my list, Jake Moody. Jake Moody versus Greg Joseph for the 49ers starting place kicker position. I think it would be safe to assume that most Niner fans are cheering for Greg Joseph in this position battle. I think most Niner fans have had enough of Jake Moody. I feel like they've seen this before. Jake Moody, looks good in camp, but then once the games get going, he's inconsistent. He misses kicks. We understand the Jake Moody experience at this point, but today in camp, just for what it's worth, Jake Moody and Greg Joseph were both 4 for 4 in field goal kicks. Instead of alternating kickers on different days, they had both of them split reps today, and each of those guys connected on all 4 of their field goals from 30, 35, 40, and 50 yards, respectively. So I definitely wanted to mention that because I know a lot of Niner fans are wondering, like, how is Jake Moody looking? What's going on with the kicking position? Like, we have to improve there this year, right? I know Niner fans are feeling that way. Perhaps the biggest revelation surrounding that kicker battle is that in his post-practice press conference today, 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa mentioned that he's actually paying attention to that kicker competition during training camp. He said it in his presser, And to me, that's very telling because Nick Bosa doesn't really say much, if anything at all, anyway. And half the time he acts like he's not really interested in much of anything and doesn't really, care about what's going on other than, working on his pass rush moves and eating a bunch of, chicken and rice. That seems like Nick Bosa's entire being is just, working out, eating chicken and rice and, working on his fundamentals as a pass rusher. But Nick Bosa went out of his way today in his press conference to say that he's paying attention to that kicker battle. And to me, that is extremely telling that Nick Bosa, of all people, has his eye on that kicker competition. And I think that tells you, maybe not Nick Bosa. Like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the players on the team are starting to maybe feel some type of way about Jake Moody, and they want to see some improvement in that department. The fact that Nick Bosa, publicly spoke on that, when teams want to usually keep a lot of stuff like that in-house, they don't want to make any kind of waves or put out anything that could be misconstrued. Nick Bosa said it. He's paying attention to the kicker competition. And so I think Nick Bosa is invested. I think his fellow teammates are also invested. They want to see improvement from the kicking spot. And that's going to be obviously one to monitor every single day of camp. Who's going to win that kicking job? Jake Moody, Greg Joseph, like what's going on there? Niner fans are wondering. The media is wondering. And apparently Nick Bosa is wondering. So take that for what you will. Number 8 on my list. Demarcus Robinson stood out today. Now, I didn't expect anything less. I've always liked Demarcus Robinson. You guys know this. But he stood out today in practice. And from all reports, he was the second best wide receiver on the field outside of Jauan Jennings. Now, we all know we're waiting on the looming pending suspension from the NFL at whatever point that may come, whether it's, the first 3 games of the year, some point mid-season, who knows. But for what it's worth, Demarcus Robinson went out there today and had a very good practice. And Kyle Shanahan mentioned him during his post-practice press conference, saying that, he was a guy that he hated going up against. Kyle Shanahan said about Demarcus Robinson, they've always liked his game. And he went out there today and made some noise. So that was encouraging, obviously. Now, I think Demarcus Robinson's a very solid pro. And him going out there and making some noise in the first day of practice isn't shocking, but it's at least, good to see, especially when you've had nothing but bad news lately at the wide receiver spot. So that's encouraging nonetheless. Let's see. Number 10. The other day, someone in the chat actually asked me about this, so this is why I highlighted this. During the 49ers defensive install period, when the team went into their NASCAR package, which is that third down, get their best pass rushers on the field, including on the interior of that defensive line, the 49ers NASCAR package looked like this. It had Nick Bosa on one end, Bryce Huff on the other end, and on the interior, you had Kalia Davis, and you also had Mykel Williams in that Joker role that Arden Key, Charles Homenihu have played in the past. So from everything that you've been hearing this offseason about rotating Mykel Williams on the interior of that defensive line on pass rushing situations, it looks like that's obviously coming to fruition. That's where they want to put him on these obvious pass rushing situations. And it even went a step further than that, because my 11th little jotted note on my list here comes from Grant Cohn. And Grant's the only one I saw even report this today, even mention this. But according to Grant, there was a rep during team drills where Mykel Williams was lined up on the inside and he beat Dominic Pooney like a drum. Now, there's no pads on, there's no hitting, but from what Grant said, I mean, Mykel beat him so quickly off the ball and with his hand movement that, it was noticeable. And that's encouraging. Like, the 11th overall pick in the draft may be the real deal. Now, I know it's very premature to say anything. The pads aren't even on. He's never played a game. But for Grant Cohn, a guy who's been around the team for 15 years and saw the beginning of Aldon Smith's career with the 49ers, and he's making some some comparisons between those two guys, at least initially, that's a very good thing. That's a very good sign. And, you know, we remember all the reports back in the day about Alden Smith making an immediate impression on Joe Staley in practice. And it sounds like Mykel Williams might be on his way to doing some similar things, albeit in a different kind of role. But Mykel Williams going out there and getting the best of Dominic Purdy on day one, that's big time. That's big time. So just keep your eyes on number 98. Keep your eyes on the first round pick, especially when the pads come on. I can't wait to see that when the pads come on Monday, to see what Mykel Williams can do with some actual contact. And I want to see what he can do also on the edge too. I want to see him win off the edge, not just from the interior. I think at this point, it's safe to assume that we know Mykel Williams can rush on the interior. I mean, that's been one of the more heavily discussed areas of his game, but I want to see what he can do on the edge. And so at the very least, I'm extremely encouraged to hear that Grant is noticing big things from Mykel on day one. Another notable area of interest that I know Niner fans are going to be paying attention to, and they may not have noticed from camp today. The first team defense during team period in the starting lineup next to Fred Warner was not D. Winters. D. Winters did not start alongside Fred Warner to open team periods on defense. It was Luke Gifford. Luke Gifford started next to Fred Warner. I don't know if that means anything at all, but I wanted to mention it. That could be something to monitor, of course. But now, of course, D. Winters did rotate in with Gifford later on, and we know that D. Winters had an interception of Brock Purdy that would have been returned for a pick six if it was an actual game. But it's worth noting that Luke Gifford was the guy starting next to Fred Warner to open up team period. So I at least wanted to mention that. Not sure what you can take from that, but it's interesting nonetheless. Speaking of players starting, in the absence of Ben Bartch, who is dealing with a quad injury, Nick Zakelj started at left guard with the 49ers offensive first team during team periods. Much like Matt Barrows had reported that he suspected Nick Zakelj would get the first look at left guard with Ben Bartch on the mend, and that came to fruition today with Zakelj starting at left guard. And some were speculating maybe it could have been Spencer Burford, but Burford got the reps at left tackle once Trent Williams was done for the day. So it really sounds like they're trying to have Burford fill in potentially as that swing tackle, or at least they're having him compete for that job. And when Trent Williams, went to the sidelines for the day, when he was done, because Trent Williams was another player along with Christian McCaffrey who did not participate in team drills, only individual work. Once they got to the team period, Trent Williams left the field, and Spencer Burford was your left tackle out there with the offense. But Nick Zakelj started at left guard today with Ben Bartch sidelined. So definitely worth noting there. Speaking of the aforementioned Ben Bartch, he was seen working out intensely on a side field. So much like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch spoke about on Tuesday, it sounds like Ben Bartch will not be out that long. He looked good from what I have read, according to reports from camp, and he was working out rather intensely on a side field. So I wouldn't expect him to miss much time. So I wanted to definitely fill you guys in there. It sounds like Ben Bartch, it will be doing just fine sooner than later. I did mention that Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey only participated in individual work. They did not engage in team drills. Nick Bosa was also one of those players. When the team went to team drills, Sam Okawanu replaced him. It was not Nick Bosa during team drills. I wouldn't expect those guys to be out there during team drills on day one of training camp. I really wouldn't. And quite frankly, I think it would be malpractice to have those veteran guys who don't need these reps this early in camp. Make sure they're ready for the regular season. However that looks is fine by me. If you want to have them not participate in team drills coming off of, off days or whatever, that's fine by me. Just make sure they get to the regular season. That's all that matters. That's all that matters to me. I did mention it earlier in the stream, but the 49ers will be putting on the pads for the first time this Monday, July 28th. That will be when we can really start to learn what this team is all about going into 2025. So for those of you that are wanting to head down to training camp, this Monday will be your first shot at seeing the team in pads if that's your thing. And I'm sure most of you would be more interested in that than a non-padded practice. So just wanted to, again, restate that so you guys are aware in case you're making some plans to go down to training camp. So speaking of, first team defense, people that are starting on the defensive side of the ball, the first team defense on the edge, on both edge spots, it was Mykel Williams and Sam Okwanu, like I mentioned, with Nick Bosa heading to the sideline during team drills. On the interior, it was Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens. Now, Alfred Collins made his first appearance on a practice field with the 49ers today, the rookie second-round pick out of Texas. From all accounts, he looked pretty good. I mean, from what I saw, he looked like a mammoth human being at 6'5", 6'6", 330 pounds. I didn't expect them to have him starting from day one. I'm sure they're going to want to let him get his feet underneath him, get his conditioning in order, like I mentioned, leading up to this week. But on the interior, it was Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens starting at defensive tackle. But from all reports, like when you're talking about these rookies on the defensive line, Mykel Williams on the edge, Alfred Collins on the interior, CJ West on the interior, they stood out to the media members in attendance just based on their size alone. Like the Niners defensive line looks a lot bigger just off the rip. And I know that's not like anything groundbreaking, but it's just refreshing to see that this team is getting a little bit bigger in the trenches. And I don't think it's going to be very long before we see guys like Alfred Collins and CJ West sprinkled in with the first team. I definitely expect to see them get some first team reps as we go throughout the course of training camp. And Sam Okwanu was the first pass rusher to come in relief of Nick Bosa. So that's obviously something to pay attention to. Yetur Gross-Matos, another guy who was on PUP and not ready to start camp, surely would have figured in to that rotation as well, but he's not ready. But according to Lynch and Shanahan, he should be back probably sooner than later as well. Now, the last little note that I took away from camp today at the safety spot, and I know I'm going through all this stuff pretty quickly, but it's a lot of stuff to get through, and I wanted to make sure that I got your thoughts out there, the viewers, the 49er fans who are watching this stream. So once I get through this final point here, I will, take a look at the chat, take your questions, your comments, and we can kind of talk about what we read and what we saw. And maybe I missed something. Maybe you guys have some points in there that I missed from camp today. But the final little note that I have written down here, the starting safeties for the 49ers defense in team period were Jason Pinnock and Jair Brown. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, Jason Pinnock had an interception of Brock Purdy here today. So it looks like he has a firm grasp on what this defense wants to do. Of course, he's familiar with Robert Saleh from their time with the New York Jets. So coming in on this defense should feel rather seamless for Jason Pinnock. And next to him was Jair Brown, who we know that he had ankle surgery during the offseason, but he came out there and got first team reps with the defense today. Didn't hear anything about Jair Brown one way or the other in regards to how he did at practice, but just for what it's worth, the starters at safety with Malik Mustafa out, they do have Richie Grant, they do have Siran Neal, they have some guys that could potentially play safety if need be. Marquis Siegel, the 5th round rookie. Jason Pinnock and Jair Brown were the 49ers starting safeties today. And I think if for some reason Malik Mustafa is not ready to go week one, I would anticipate that those two guys will be your starting safeties up in Seattle for the first game of the season. So I just definitely wanted to pass that along. And, as we go through camp here, we will definitely have our eyes on that position as well. So there you have it, faithful. That was just my long-winded way of saying that welcome to training camp. Today was the first practice of 49ers camp, and I can't wait to get down there. Spoiler alert, without being a spoiler alert, I have some big plans coming down the pipeline regarding 49ers training camp, and I will share them with you at the appropriate time. But keep it locked right here. Make sure your notifications are on. Make sure you're subscribed. And also, if you're interested in behind-the-scenes content, bonus videos, monthly giveaways, an awesome 49er community chat, check out the Patreon. If you guys want to help support the channel, if you enjoy the daily content that we're doing over here on Keeping the Faith, check out the Patreon. The information's down below in the ticker as well as the description box. Patreon.com/keepingthefaith. Shout out to our current Patreon members who have been holding strong. I want to see it grow. I want to see it grow so that we can do bigger and better things over there. I have some big plans for the Patreon this year. The channel is growing here on YouTube, so I will have YouTube memberships and perks associated with that coming sooner rather than later as well. But in the meantime, if you appreciate the content and you want to show some love, definitely check out the Patreon. Also, I want to mention too, and I've been trying to promote this as well. Follow me on Twitter/X at KTF49JD is the Twitter handle. I will put it in the chat so that you guys can give me a follow over there. I will have some interesting stuff that I will be posting on there as well throughout the course of training camp and the regular season. And there you have it right there on the screen. At KTF49JD is the Twitter handle or X handle, whatever you want to call it. But there you have it, faithful. That was my takeaways from the first day of 49ers camp. Now, of course, they'll be back out there tomorrow. I will be live again tomorrow at 4:30 Pacific time, giving you my thoughts from the second practice of training camp. And you can expect that each and every practice during camp leading up to the regular season. And, of course, Monday through Friday, right here, 4:30 p.m., live on YouTube. But like I mentioned, make sure your notifications are on. Make sure you're subscribed because I will be posting up sporadic videos throughout the week. Other live streams may pop up as well. When the Niners are practicing on the weekends, I will have post-practice streams right here too on the weekend. So don't think it's just a during the week thing. I will go live when I am needed to go live. And so just make sure you are following me where you can follow me. We have a lot planned here on this channel. And I've been doing this a long time. I've taken some sporadic breaks, but I've been on YouTube talking about the 49ers since 2009. I have taken extended breaks on multiple occasions, but we're doing this thing, and I'm excited. I'm energized for this season like no other, and I'm looking forward to coming on here as often as I possibly can and breaking down the news of the day as it pertains to your San Francisco 49ers. It's football season, the best time of the year. I can't wait till we start hearing those pads popping down at training camp. And I'm so happy. I'm so ready for football, guys. I hope you can pick up on the intensity, the passion that I'm trying to relay to you guys. I'm jacked. I love football. I do. And so I can't wait to kind of share that passion with you guys throughout the course of this season. And I'm looking forward to seeing this channel grow, seeing the Patreon grow. And, we got some big things planned. I'll just leave it at that. We got some big things planned here on this channel. Papa J says, what's wrong with X? Nothing's wrong with X, but it's Twitter. Like, it's Twitter. It's always been Twitter. It's been Twitter since 2008. I'm sorry. I've been using Twitter for almost 20 years. It's Twitter. Just because some rich guy bought it and wanted to change the name, sorry, it's Twitter. Just like how Candlestick Park was renamed Monster Park, 3Com Park, and everyone still called it Candlestick, same thing. It's Twitter. That's what it's known as. That's what I'm always going to refer to it as. So that's all. That's all. Big Brick 84 says, I am pumped for football to be back, but stoked this year in particular. I'm energized, man, because there's a lot of unknown, a lot of new energy, a lot of youth around this team that this team has not had in recent years. So it's a lot of unknown. It's a lot of like anticipation, a lot of the regular season is going to be extremely meaningful for the first time in a while because this team has been so competitive and so strong the last several years. You would go into the regular season thinking, man, just get me to January. Like, I know this team's going to be playing in the playoffs. Just get me to January. Now, do I expect the team to be in the playoffs this year? Yeah, I do. But it's a whole new type of energy around this team, a lot of newness around the 49ers this year. And that's going to make the regular season exciting again. And I'm looking forward to it in a big, big way. Let's see what else we got here in the chat. I'm going to scroll up, make sure I didn't miss anything in particular from you guys that we can discuss here. Tommy Huxley says JD loves baseball more than football. That is not true. That is fake news. And you know what I love more than that, though, is banning people that say I love baseball because I don't. I'm not going to ban you. I'm just kidding. But no, I'm not a baseball guy. Not a baseball guy. Football and basketball are my two, biggest sports in terms of my interest. Let's see what else we got here in the chat. Keys chiming in. What's up, JD? I'm excited about our new defense. Got to be better than last year. They got off to a good start today. 2 of those new starters making interceptions of Brock Purdy. So that's big. That's big stuff. Let's see what else we got. I see a few other people checking in. Bay Area Oasis fan. I see Sin checking in earlier in the chat. Let's see who else we got. I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Of course, Fazil checked in. Okay, I think I caught everybody. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Tommy says I was just trolling. I know, man. I know. You're good. You're good. I'm not a baseball guy. I'm not. Like, I've tried. I like baseball in person, but I can't watch it on TV, man. It puts me to sleep, if I'm being real. Papa J says, kick out Tommy. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So if you guys had any other takeaways that you noticed from the first day of training camp today, definitely let those be known in the chat. If you have any questions about anything from day one or heading into day 2, definitely now's the time to let it be known. But yeah, that was all I had today from day 1 of 49ers camp. I really think it was interesting that Nick Bosa said that he has his eyes on the kicking competition. I think that's really interesting because Nick Bosa doesn't say much of anything at all. And like I said, like Nick Bosa comes off as a guy that doesn't really care about much of anything. He cares about how much protein he gets in every day. That's really about it. But for him to say that he has his eyes on the kicking job, like that tells you a lot about how they feel about Jake Moody in that locker room. Nick Bosa did say, that he's really kind of taking it upon himself to be more of a leader this year, especially with all the young guys on the defensive line. So I thought that was encouraging and noteworthy. I definitely want to make sure that I mentioned that as well. So, yeah, today was a good day. Good to see these guys back on the practice field. Great to see them talking to the media. Great to see that the 49ers video department had the live stream working properly today when the 49ers went live with the press conferences. Yesterday there were some technical difficulties there, but today they had it all squared away. When the Niners went live with Kyle Shanahan speaking at the podium, there was audio, so that's a good sign. We're getting better every single day. It's like Kyle Shanahan says, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And the 49ers video department got better today. So good on you. Good job, 49ers video department. Hopefully they'll keep it going. Tommy Huxley says, do you think Jacob Cowing is done? That is a very interesting question. Like I mentioned coming into camp, like this was a huge camp for Cowing, and for him to not even make it, 20 minutes into the first practice before pulling his hamstring, like I don't want to say it's over. I really don't think it is, if I'm being real. I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be one of the 49ers 6 wide receivers that they keep on the depth chart entering the season as long as he's healthy. But it's not a good sign. They brought in Jordan Watkins, and here's the thing. If Jordan Watkins can really seize his opportunity, because he is going to have one hell of an opportunity in front of him now. It is his job to lose, really. If he can go out there and show the 49ers coaching staff that he brings more to the table than Jacob Cowing, like, it's going to go a long way in determining how that whole outcome shakes out. So it's not good from Jacob Cowing, at the very least. Very discouraging to see that Jacob Cowing hurt his hamstring today. I was really looking forward to that camp battle. That's a bummer, a big bummer on the first day of Niner camp for sure. Big Brick 84 says Cowing will be fine, just a little rest and relaxation, and he will be back to business in a week or two. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. I'm fingers crossed. I'm with you, but we'll see. We don't know the severity of the injury yet, so I'm sure we'll find out sooner rather than later. Big Brick 84 says Pearsall and Cowing work with Purdy in the offseason, so they are already gelling. Sure, but it's different when you're going against, when you're going against teammates and you're going in full practices and there's more pressure and there's fans in attendance and you have pads on. Like, just because you threw against air in the offseason with Brock Purdy doesn't really tell me anything. Like, how does Jacob Cowing hold up against the press? How does Jacob Cowing hold up going over the middle when guys have pads on and they're trying to take his head off? Like, all that stuff matters a lot more than a couple offseason throwing sessions. And I'm not trying to like dog on Jacob Cowing. I'm just telling it like it is. Like, I want to see more from Jacob Cowing than just some off-season work with Brock Purdy. Tommy Huxley says it right here. The best ability is availability. Absolutely. I'm with you. Well, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's stream. I will be live again tomorrow right here on this channel. So make sure you like the stream, make sure you're subscribed, notifications, yada, 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 all that stuff. Check out the damn Patreon, show your boy some love. Follow me on Twitter at KTF49JD, and keep it locked right here. We will be live tomorrow and every single day during 49ers training camp. And I'm looking forward to talking about what happens tomorrow out there in Santa Clara on the practice field. So with that, I will catch all of you right here Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. And let's go. Football's back, baby.